Welcome to the last shir on Megillas Rus. If you find the material here interesting, I hope you'll consider sharing it with a friend. We continue our exploration of the conceptual symbolism embedded in the Megillah and look at Rus's acts of fealty as establishing a new paradigm for both relating to the other and relating to God. We address how the idea of being a chosen people can allow for and even embrace converts, and find that the answer comes from Malchut, kingship, something that the Megillah revolves around. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you enjoy.
Sorry,
okay.
Too silly.
Now that we got the giggles out of the system, we are really, for realsies this time, going to finish the series on Rus. So we were in the middle of talking about the symbolism that comes along with Rus and how things have changed in the story from the source material. So we talked about the fact that there are two stories, the story of Lot and his daughters, and the story of Yehuda and Tamar, which are sort of the precursors that give rise to the story of Rus. And what I started to argue for last time was that actually there's more that's involved, more stories, specifically pulling in some of the life story of Avram Avinu. One point that I want to make sure we clarify and really hone in on was what was going on the at the granary. Specifically, we talked about how Rus sort of flipped the script, right? That historically, when Shuva Gemura, exactly. Naomi was sending Rus there essentially to seduce Boaz, and she changes that whole pattern. The point I want to make sure we drive home is what she was doing differently is putting the focus on relationship, meaning the source material is all about outcome. The people of Sodom are not interested in outsiders. They don't want a relationship with outsiders. They just want to know what they can take from those outsiders. And if they can't, if there is no benefit to them, then there's no interest. And then it's better to get rid of them, right? It's more mouths to feed. That's without getting too graphic, that's the whole nature of Sodom in terms of their intimate relationships. Is follows that same pattern. The same is true.
Preferred method of interacting.
Yeah. The same is true, even if it's L'Shem Shamayim, the same is true of the daughters of Lot. They're not interested in a relationship with their father, they're interested in producing Zerah, right? They need to further the cause. The same is true of Tamar, right? She's not looking for a relationship with Yehuda, she's looking to propagate. The same is true of the Moabite girls who are seducing the Jews in the Midbar. They're not trying to accomplish relationship, they're trying to accomplish derailment, or exactly some sort of problem.
What's interesting about the list that you just gave is that some of them are there with negative outcomes or consequences, and specifically Yehuda and Tamar, fine.
Yeah, fine, absolutely. It's not a knock on them necessarily, but
reality.
It's the reality. But what Rus is saying, and what Boaz picks up on, is he says, wow, this chesed that you did is so amazing that you didn't go after the younger boys. What does that mean? Well, if you were looking to just take care of yourself and of Naomi and have some support system, so you could have found any guy and gotten pregnant, and then he's got to pay child support. But no, you're interested specifically in me, says Boaz, and I recognize that. That means you're interested in a relationship.
Maybe he's richer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be, but what she's saying, and what she has said really throughout the entire story. The first time she communicates is with Naomi, and Naomi says, "You can't get anything out of me. I have no more kids. I have nothing to give you." Right? Rus says, "I'm not interested in that. I don't care. I'm interested in you. I want to have a relationship with you. Where you go, I go. It's all about you." Why is it all about you? Because Rus is all about the relationship, not taking something out of the relationship. That is the exact opposite of the Moabite and Sodomite approach to interpersonal relationships, and it really, I think, is both what Avram was coming to accomplish at the sale of Maras HaMachpelah, and I think it even really goes back to Gan Eden and the problem that that arose with the fruit of the womb and the fruit of the land is exactly that point. I think that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was pointing out, that if what you're trying to do is get something out of the relationship, then you can't produce zera. You cannot produce continuity if all you're looking for is the outcome.
But you're saying that was not targeted Boaz, but because of Nami?
No, Naomi said, go do the same thing that the girls in the Midbar did. Go into a relationship trying to get something out of it. You're going to seduce Boaz, you'll get a kid, and
You
Are you
tell
talking
me.
about the
whatever
people in the Midyanim?
yeah, it was the Moabite girls that
Okay.
seduced the Jewish men. So Ruth does the exact opposite. She doesn't do what Naomi says to do. Naomi says, Boaz will tell you what to do. And Ruth says, that's not how this is going to play out. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. There's going to be a relationship here because I'm invested in the relationship, not in the results of the relationship.
It's
And
interesting that Nami wouldn't.
Naomi didn't recognize it. She saw, like we said, not to knock Yehuda and Tamar, not to knock the Benos Lot. They did it l'shem shamayim, and it was impactful, it was important. But Ruth takes it one step further, and she says, it's not about just the outcome. It's about finding meaning in the relationship itself, not what you can take from the relationship. So Boaz picks up on that, and that's what leads to the sale of the field. And I think if we look at the sale of the field and compare it to the sale of Maras HaMachpelah, it becomes very interesting. We talked about how Chazal compare the sale of the field to the acquisition of a woman through Kesef, Kicha Mistei Ephron, right? So let's look again conceptually at the sale that was going on with Boaz and try to find some of the similarities. So first of all, you have the purchase that's being made in front of an audience, right? By the Bnei Chet, where Avram purchases the field, the whole town is there. Boaz also assembles, right? Everybody ends up showing up to this field. It is a purchase of an ancestral land, right? Avram says, "Tnuli achuzas kaver." I want to own this not as a one-time thing for one generation. It should be in perpetuity. That's already hinting to you that there is a way to have a relationship with karka that is not just transactional. It's permanent, right? The fact that when you have ancestral land in Eretz Yisrael, you can sell it, but it's never really gone, right? You can't sever the relationship that you have with this land. That means you have an actual permanent relationship as opposed to something that is metalton, something that you can trade in exchange and it's gone. The land is permanent. That's what Avram is asking for, and that's what's going on with the sale with Boaz and Ploni Almoni. The field is purchased for a woman, right? Naomi is selling the field. Avram is purchasing the field on behalf of Sarah. It's also associated. Both fields are associated with someone who passed away. So Naomi inherited this field because Elimelech passed away, and we call attention to that in the terms of the sale. You also get a lot of the repetitious language where Abraham literally says Ger v'toshav anochi machem, right? The difference between Ger and Toshav, and I think this is really important. We're not going to get into all of the baggage of the term ger, but in the Torah, a ger is someone who's essentially window shopping. It's someone who has not made the commitment. They've come, they're living among the people, and they have certain obligations, but they haven't gone through the process of complete conversion. There's a ger toshav and a ger tzedek, and those terms become a little bit more relevant in Chazal, but a ger is someone who hasn't fully made the commitment. They are there, but they're not all the way there.
What is someone who's made the full commitment?
They're a Jew. They've converted. That's what Rus has done. They're not a ger anymore. They're just a Jew. That's why at the end Rus loses the name Moaviyah. It's just Rus. The whole Megillah, she's Rus HaMoaviyah. The end, she's just Rus because now she's part of the Jewish people, and that's why she doesn't need to have separate halachos, separate anything.
One of the parties is initially agreeable and then reneges.
Yeah.
That's common to both, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. Yeah. So what ends up happening then is that what was, we'll say, covert at the time of the sale of Maras HaMachpelah, this relationship between land and acquiring a land and acquiring a wife, is overt instead of covert. It's overt now with Boaz. He's putting those two things together explicitly. If you buy the land, you're marrying Rus, versus kicha, which Chazal make that drasha, but it's not explicit in the pasuk. Both of them are coming to do the same thing, put those two concepts together, but one is doing it very explicitly. And I think what is happening there is that Boaz has this recognition, which Avram had, and that I think is what Rus has opened Boaz's eyes to, which is the way to deal with the curse of Gan Eden is to, like we said before, to own it, right? We talked about owning your problems, right? And how I don't even remember the example we gave last. Oh, yeah, with the tinus, right? That on a tinus you fast to show that you understand that the punishment is really part of the solution. So if the punishment in Gan Eden was that God curses the fruit of the land and the fruit of the womb, then that means that those things, that curse, is an opportunity for restitution. That's what Avram has figured out. That's why he's buying Maras HaMachpelah, and that's why we're putting those two things together. And what
Ruth together with Yom Kippur then?
With Yom Kippur, how do we get to Yom Kippur?
Because that's a fast day.
That's not a fast. That's a Torah mandated fast. It's not a punishment. We're talking about fasting because there's no rain.
I thought you were talking about just stop fasting.
When there's no rain, so there's no food, and our response to there being no food
only
is
that fast.
Right. So
why any other fast are we fasting?
That's a separate, it's a different topic. I don't want to get too far afield, but
afield.
Thank you, at least someone. What Rus is teaching Boaz is that you can, and I want to sort of be delicate and clear about this. It is entirely possible to have unhealthy relationships. You can have relationships where one party is abusive, is whatever, and that's not what I'm talking about, because those are not really relationships. Those are one person using a second person to get out their issues or to do whatever. What I'm trying to describe over here is that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a curse on something, that's his way of saying this is the thing to use in order to repair the relationship, right? The second we adopt that, and what Rus is teaching Boaz is what you need to adopt is relationship. You need to stop looking at the curses as problems to fix. That was Cain's approach. Oh, God cursed the ground? No problem. I will take the stuff from the ground, make it kadosh, and now it's fixed. That's not the point. The point is to forge a relationship. What God is saying is that you, mankind, are not looking for relationship. You're looking for what you can get out of the land, what you can get out of the woman. You want a child, you want produce, you want whatever. Stop trying to take stuff out and start investing in. When you invest in the relationship, and you, like we described by Noach, Chazal described Noach as a farmer for the sake of farming. Right? You can have a relationship with the land. You can have a relationship with the woman that is not about what you can take out of it. It's about what you can put into it. And even if there is something that appears negative in that relationship, that's God cursing something, that's God's way of saying to you, use this to forge the relationship. Use this and understand it, adopt it, own it, and then you will have the ability to invest in that relationship in a way that is healthy. Good.
Yeah. Well, the idea of intimacy can be frightening, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because...
Frightening, horrifying.
Yeah. Could be. But that's really the goal.
Not my relationship.
Barriers
not my relationship.
That's what human relationships are. Like they're about building intimacy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And
not frightening.
Very frightening. I don't know.
The only other thing I will point out is that Chazal describe Avram as Tchila Lagerim, that Avram is the first convert. And I think that is a fascinating idea, and it's going to take us into the next topic, which is that means that, and we describe also the Jews at Har Sinai as converting to Judaism. What does that mean? That means that Judaism existed independently of Jews. That Avram is able to convert into Judaism, that the Jews at Har Sinai are able to convert into Judaism, means Judaism's there. It just doesn't have any actual instantiation of people, but the concept exists.
There was no Saras because
Right. But I guess this will really take us into the next topic, which is dealing with the challenge of corporeal election. So let me preface by saying that Michael Wyshegrad, who we referenced when we were talking about corporeal election, this idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses to have a relationship with individuals, with people, with nations, purely out of ratzon, that not for any particular reason, that concept seems to be at odds with the idea that, well, anybody can just join the Jews, and now they're suddenly chosen. Well, they weren't chosen, right? So he doesn't really address this in any systematic way that I could see in his writing, so I don't want this to be taken as Michael Wyshegrad's approach. This is Moshe Isaacson's approach, so I will own it for better or worse. The theory that I'm going to propose to answer this is to explore the concept of Malchus. Malchus is this idea that the entity can act independent of the individuals that make up the entity. So to give you a very concrete example, you can have an ant colony or a beehive that exhibits traits like anger or whatever. They can two ant colonies can go to war with each other. That's not particular ants that are going to war with each other. That's the colony. The group is acting in a way and has its own ratzon, independent of whether that particular component of the group goes along with it or goes in the opposite direction. Right? Does this concept make sense? Malchus is made up of the people, independent of any particular person.
There has to be there's a tipping point. There needs to be a certain amount or a certain population of a subgroup of that population that is going along with towing the line or whatever the party line is in order for that to actually happen. Meaning you can't say the country is going to war if no one in the country is fighting.
Yes, you need to have an instantiation of the concept in reality, not just in theory, right? If the Jewish people declare war on Canaan and no one actually goes to fight, then that's not really a war, right? So usually the Melech is the instantiation of that. He's the one that says, this is what we're doing, and he has the authority to draft people to go do whatever it is that he wants to do, but he can only do that and only really has power to do it if he's acting on behalf of the nation. If he's doing something that is against the will of the people, it's not going to work very well. It's not going to be an expression of Malchus, is maybe a better way to put it.
Okay.
So far, so good?
Okay.
So how does this filling in fit in with
We're
the
getting
election?
Okay. So we have to go back to the beginning, Fezzik. The first mention of kings in the Torah is, I think we talked about this a little bit, the 4 kings and the 5 kings, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens? So we have 9 kings total.
Which is paradoxical because the whole idea of a king is there really should be one king.
No, different nations.
Well, they're all fiefdoms and yes.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of funny because the whole idea of a melech is that it's the head person, like
of that nation, of that nation.
Organization.
Yeah.
So who's the king that gets the most screen time over there? Malch Sodom.
Oh.
Malch Sodom is the guy, and this is actually where we have a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. I should read you the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Arba midos ba'adam. There are 4 attributes that a person can have. You can have one of these 4. Ha'omer shali shali v'shalach shalach. Someone who says what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. That is midas beinonis.
Right.
Says the Mishnah. The Yesh Omrim, and the Yesh Omrim says exactly what Yossi said. Zo midas Sodom. How did that get to be midas Sodom? Shali shali v'shalach shalach.
Stay out of it. No relationship.
What does the Melch Sodom say to Avram Avinu?
Let's kill these dudes and I'll give you their treasure.
Give me the people.
Ten li sanefesh v'rechush kach lach. Shali shali. The rechush is mine. Shalach shalach. You can take. I'm sorry. The people are mine. The rechush is yours. You earned the rechush. You went and fought the war. You're entitled to the spoils, to the booty of the war. But the people are mine. You're not entitled to the people. Shali shali v'shalach shalach. What does Avram say?
I don't want anything. Not a shoe strap or a thread will I take.
Shali shalach, v'shalach shalach chassid. What's mine is yours. What's yours is yours. That's the chassid, right? That's Avram's response. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in what you how you determine this relationship. I'm going to decide what is mine and what is yours, and I don't want any of that. No.
The chassid that says shali shalach, right, v'shalach shalach, is not saying that no, what's mine really isn't, or what you think is mine really isn't mine. It's no, this is mine, but I'm more than happy to give you whatever you need. Please take from whatever I have, so that way you have what you need. Avram wasn't saying to Sodom, yes, I in fact really do deserve all the rechush, but no, please, I don't want it. No, he's saying, I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Okay.
The people that came with me, oh, everything they earned is theirs, absolutely. But me, I don't want to associate with you whatsoever. And then
but was it his to determine?
Whose?
There's booty left over from the war. Whose is it?
Avram Avinu did not want to be associated.
Right, but he's saying
I'm saying by right.
Melech Sodom's
he's electing
is okay. You deserve this. This is mine. So this is yours. This is mine. Right? You take what's yours. I take what's mine. And Avram Avinu was saying, no. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Don't say that that's mine. That's not mine. Don't ever say it had anything to do with me. I'm not giving you anything. It's all yours. Stay the heck away from me.
Okay. I hear.
Right, but in a way, you're saying almost the same thing. You're saying, okay, you can say that it's mine, but I don't want it. It's yours. That power of electing to say that this is not mine. What you King of Sodom are saying is not. What your King of Sodom is saying is not valid, and I'm adopting a different paradigm. Is what Moshe I think is saying. Which is not different from what you're saying.
The mission, what I'm trying to say is that the mission in Pirkei Avos, where it says that the chassid is saying shali shalach, is a very big different mind. It's a different mindset than Avram Avinu's mindset when it came to Sodom. He did not want to have anything. He did not want to associate with Sodom at all. I did this to save Lot. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Don't want anyone to ever say that I gained anything from dealing with you whatsoever, ever. Right? And we know that Avram Avinu did the right thing, because literally the next thing Hashem says,
right,
I'm letting you know, you're
awesome,
right? But in this Mishnah, the idea, again, and I could be wrong, but the idea, to me at least, the idea of the Mishnah is that a chassid says, this is mine, this is yours, please have whatever you need. But this is mine, yes, shali shalach. Whatever I have that's mine is available to you, please.
Right, I hear. So we have 4 kings and we have 5 kings. We never like the number 9. We like the number 7. We like the number 10. We're missing 1 king. Who's the 10th king?
Abraham.
No, who does he meet?
Who does he meet?
Malchut Tzedek.
Malchut Tzedek. His name is Malchut Tzedek, right? He shows up and does the exact opposite of Moab. Moab is in trouble for Shelo Kidmu Eschem Belechem U'Mayim, and that you got Bilam to curse me. Malchut Tzedek shows up with Lechem and Yayin, and he blesses Avram, Baruch Avram Le'el Elyon, right?
And didn't Avram Avinu attack? It was more than that, because this is Malchut Tzedek's family or whatever it was. The people that Avram Avinu was fighting against in order to save Lot were people that Malchut Tzedek was associated with.
Oh, that I didn't know.
And he was showing goodwill.
He's Melech Shalem. That's what the pasuk. I think it's Yerushalayim. I think that's what Melech Shalem is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shalem becomes Yerushalayim.
Shalem is Yerushalayim, but
yeah.
Why would he have been in that area part of the world?
I don't know. Maybe
it's geographically too far. Because Avram was from Ur.
Avram was from Ur, but he was in Canaan when that happened.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, Sodom is near.
Sodom is right, but he's in the area, but I don't think he's actually in.
We can trace it. I can.
It's like a 35-minute drive.
They take 90.
Okay. So here's what I'd like. So what I'd like to propose to deal with the question of converts versus corporeal election is as follows: If we take Avram as our paradigm, then I think what it takes in order for a convert to enter into Yiddishkeit is as follows. One is you have to do the same thing that Avram did, which is also the same thing that Ruth does. You have to divest yourself of your identity. That is what Lech Lecha Me'artzcha Me'moladcha. That whole thing is exactly what Avram does, is exactly what Ruth does, and that is required in order to sort of start with a blank slate. You are now no longer, we talked about way back in the beginning that people were where they were from, right? That's why you have to leave the place.
Is it corporeal election that God is choosing you?
That God is choosing a particular people
over
or
everybody else.
Correct. So the question is, how can this is the first half of the answer. It's really a two-stage process. Step number one is to divest yourself of your old identity, and then step number two is to basically do the same thing that God does, which is choose freely this new identity. And what happens when a convert does that is that the Jewish people, the concept of the Jewish people, choose them too. Meaning, part and parcel of the Jewish identity, and this is why we talked about Kashin Gerim L'Yisrael Kisapachas, that it's hard for the Jewish people to integrate this outside perspective, but in doing so, the Jewish people say, this person chose us and we chose them. What happens
Almost
when
like somebody fighting, like a lone ant coming along and just like starting to fight for one of the ant colonies.
Something like that.
Corporeal election isn't Jews
no,
choosing,
it's not.
It's God choosing.
So the response of God when the Jewish people do that is whatever you, the Jewish people, through the concept of Malchus, right? Through the concept of a Ruth is not choosing a particular people in a particular time. She's choosing the Jewish people, which is a concept spread out over time. And what God says is, I chose you, and you get to define you. You, the people, you, the Jewish people, define who is in and who is not in. So if you choose to include this person, I can't define you. If I, God, define you, the Jewish people, then you're not an independent entity. You're whatever I've decided you to be. I have to allow. It's not lav bashamayim. It's by the very definition that there is a Jewish nation, a malchus, that I, God, have to have a relationship with. I can't define it. If I define it, then it doesn't have its own independence.
By definition, he is defining it, and that is what makes it corporeal election.
No, corporeal election means he's choosing to have a relationship with this thing. Right?
God is choosing the Jews.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's not defining the Jews.
As opposed to the Moabites, as opposed to the Americans, right. As opposed to the English.
But he doesn't. He's not defining who's in and who's out. He's allowing the Jews to define who's in and who's out. If he doesn't, then there's no independent identity. If I decide who you are, and I decide how you are going to self-define, then there is no you. You're just an extension of me. You're not independent.
But that's exactly what we believe that we are.
What does that mean?
I mean, we are an extension of the Rebbeinu Shalom. We are every neshama is a chelik elokami ma'al. Like that's what we believe we are.
We are a chosen people. We believe we are chosen.
Yes, we believe we are chosen, but we also believe we are a people. And that.
We are a chosen people. That is by definition what brings us to corporeal election.
Right, but what I'm saying is, in order to be a people, you have to be able to self-define.
Right. Okay.
And part of the self-definition of the Jewish people is adopting the person who chooses to be a part of them.
Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that the corporeal election is through God.
Yes, God says, I choose this.
I choose the Jewish people. I choose the Jewish people over every other religion.
Right. Now who is a Jewish people? I God can't define that. You Jews have to define who are you allowing to be part of your identity. And the Jewish people
God
say,
can define that. God did define that when I chose Avram.
No.
Okay. I chose Avram over everybody else.
no,
including those that were with Avraham.
what does that mean?
Yes, hanefesh asher asu b'chara.
Yeah.
We
But
will never know who those people
those
are.
aren't people that God chose. Just like
Right.
Avram sent away Yishmael and he sent away the Bnei Keturah. There are people that Avram said are part of me, are part of my lineage, and there are other people he says no, these are not part of the Jewish people. Because the Jewish people can decide and define Yitzchak is in and Esav is out. What do you mean? Esav is just as much a Jew as Yitzchak is. No, he's not.
Is it that
I'm sorry,
Is-
it's Yaakov. Yeah, thank you.
But is it that Yitzchak didn't choose Esav, or is Esav the only one that successfully bowed out?
Or is it God who chose?
Meaning,
God was the one who chose.
God didn't tell Yitzchak Esav's not in. God didn't tell Avram that actually.
Yishmael-
God did tell
No,
you.
No, Sarah said.
One second.
Sarah said, "Get rid of the kid."
Yeah.
But God didn't tell Avram that the Bnei Keturah are not in. Why are the Bnei Keturah not in? Why did
Because
Avram
God-
send those away?
Ki b'Yitzchak yikor lechazara.
Okay,
That's a good one.
That's very,
that was before there
direct.
were Bnei Keturah.
Right.
So that pasuk only applies to Yitzchak versus Yishmael,
Why?
because that's
Why-
all it could be
why
talking
can't-
about. Or then you have a problem sending away Esav. Yitzchak.
Yitzchak didn't send away Esav. Interestingly enough, Yitzchak sent away Yaakov.
Right, it's true. That's true.
Well, really, Rivka said, "Get out of here," because like
Yeah,
he's gonna
the
murder
dodge,
you.
right.
Like that wasn't like sending him away, like saying you're out. That's like saying save yourself. That's a different sending away.
Agreed.
That's not like hey, you're out. Get out of my sight. You're banished.
We believe you can't renounce Judaism. Right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
That means Asa was born, when he was born, he was not a Jew.
No, he
No.
stole
So-
his. He stole
It's
his
different for
Bechorah.
him?
Yeah.
Or is it different for him?
Bowed
But
out.
he did renounce his Judaism. And he
There is a statement from Chazal that Esav is Yisrael Mumer. I don't know what to do with that because Edom is certainly not
Yisrael.
Yisrael. The one I guess illustration of this concept that I think might be interesting is why does God put Adam to sleep when he removes his side and makes Chava? So I
Was
would.
not giving him an anesthetic would just be cruel.
No,
He
because
can, no, he can give him an anesthetic and not knock him out. Just give him just local, not a general.
well, there's a midrash on that.
Well, I'll
the
give you.
nauseating part. You know that one?
No, that is.
No, there's a midrash that says this Roman matronita or Roman emperor, I don't remember which,
Okay.
says to one of the rabbis, like, your God's a thief, right? He says, like he took Adam's side, while he was sleeping, like a thief in the night. And the rabbi answers, he's like, oh, by the way, you're reminding me, somebody stole a silver bowl from your treasury and put a gold bowl in its place last night. So he's like, may such thefts occur every night,
Yeah.
So the Roman emperor's like, oh, very good, fine. Okay, so you're saying that he took something of lesser value and gave Adam Harishon something of greater value. Fine, so why didn't he do it while he was awake? Your question, right? So he says, so the rabbi commands the head chef, okay, we want to have a salt-encrusted grill today. Okay, so basically,
A what?
a salt-encrusted grill. I don't know, like basically...
Pepper steak.
Right. He basically takes this steak, okay? They throw it into like the charcoal, they roll it around, they brush it off, they're out, they're doing all this stuff to the thing, and then they slap it down on the emperor's plate, and they're like, eat. And he's like, I can't eat this. This was on the ground, it was in the dirt with the ashes. And he's like, and it's not it's not appetizing. So the rabbi says, so this is the answer to your question. Had Adam Harishon seen how Chava was prepared, he would have been nauseated by the sight of her because it would have been too much information.
Okay.
That's the way that midrash
the
goes.
sausage is made.
Yeah, you don't want to know how the sausage is made. It's delicious, it's awesome, but you don't want to know the process. Like, keep me.
Interesting.
That's a midrash.
I hear. I'll offer you a different interpretation, which is he didn't want to prejudice Adam, who needs to not know that Chava is etzem me'atzmosai. Adam looks at Chava and says, "This time, Hapam, this is it, right? This person I can have a relationship with." That is exactly what we're trying to accomplish in Megillas Rus. You have to be able to see the other as etzem me'atzmosai. I didn't know that she is actually part of me. I was asleep. I had no idea that happened, but I'm looking at that other person and I'm saying you're part of me. Right?
Why you
What would be the downside of actually knowing that they're a part of you?
It would be even.
Because then you didn't choose it. If you knew they're a part of you, then there's no revelation to say etzem me'atzmosai. The point is you don't know they are other. She's actually other. But you look at that other and you say, that is part of me. That is part of the Jewish people. That is, I'm going to identify as that is just as much me as I am. The ability to do that to the other is what Megillas Rus is about. I'll give you 2 quotes and I'll skip the summary and review because I know it's late.
We didn't start with a quote today.
To know can only wonder breed, and not to know is wonder's seed. That's Sidney Godolphin, and we'll end with another Mishnah from Pirkei Avos. Antigonus ish Socho kibo mishimon hatzadik. Antigonus, there's a good Jewish name for you, a man of Socho, received the oral tradition from Shimon the righteous. I'm just going to give you the Sfaria translation over here. Hu haya omer. He used to say as follows: Al tiyu ka'avadim ha'mishamshim es harav al manas lekabel pras. Do not be like the servants who serve the master in the expectation of receiving what's pras? What's pras?
Bread.
Pras is bread. They translate it here as receiving reward, but pras is a piece of bread. Ella havu ka'avadim ha'mishamshin sarav shelo almanas lekabel pras. But rather be like the servant who serves the master, not with the expectation of receiving pras. Right? That's what we were talking about. Rus is not. She's the Eved, and she's not trying to get something out of it. She's trying to put something into it. V'yumora shamayim aleichem. And the only last point that I will mention to you is that we talked about the number 8, how David is the 8th child, how there are 8 kings of Sodom. I don't think we mentioned the fact that Oved, in the list of genealogies, comes after Boaz. Boaz is the 7th, and Oved is the 8th. Mazel tov, chazak.
Wow, you made it all the way through to the end of this year. Thank you. These series are a passion of mine, and a lot of effort goes into them. I'd be grateful for your help in spreading the awareness to others. If you're interested in joining us live, getting the notes, or asking a question, please message me on Twitter at Isaacson, ISAACSON. Thanks.